Can you imagine a world without fat people? Not only do the people in this world not get fat, even their physical development, their circumference, their uterus, all aspects of their physical health are strictly monitored. In the future, the world erupts into a full-scale nuclear war, followed by a nearly humanity-destroying civil war. After billions of people have died, humanity finally embraces peace and utopia. Subsequently, a new regime called Life Origin replaces the government taking control of the entire human society. Life Origin upholds the belief that human life and health are above all else. In this new society, every person is implanted with a health monitoring system called Watch Me at birth. Under this system's surveillance, humans are exceptionally healthy and long-lived. They do not get fat, they do not age. Even cancer will be eliminated. To regulate human moral behavior, Life Origin has also created a scoring system where individuals can see each other's social scores at any time. In such a new social environment, the mental and physical health of humans reaches an all-time peak. But in this almost heavenly new world, a 28-year-old woman just wants to escape far away from here. Her name is Tuan. With outstanding performance, she was admitted to the Spiral Inspection Bureau of Life Origin and became a senior inspector. Later, she ventured to work in the harsh desert, because only here is she free from the constraints of Life Origin, and here is also the battleground of the border. Here she is a neutral party. She does not represent justice. To help either side, she often engaged in trading medical supplies with both sides of the conflict zone for cigarettes and alcohol. Under the rule of Life Origin, any behavior harmful to health was strictly prohibited, including drinking, smoking, and even coffee. On this day, Tuan and his men were trading goods. They had just loaded the cigarettes and alcohol onto their vehicle, when suddenly a warplane appeared in the sky. Tuan immediately drove away with her team. But due to Tuan's special status, she couldn't be caught on surveillance. So she opened the sunroof of the off-road vehicle, stuck her body out, raised the rocket launcher to aim and fire, instantly taking out the pursuers. However, when Tuan returned to the camp, she found her superior, the female chief officer, waiting for her. Tuan was caught red-handed for smoking and drinking in the war zone, actions that severely undermined the authority of Life Origin. Her unit, the Spiral Inspection Bureau of Life Origin, was tasked with monitoring behaviors worldwide that could endanger human DNA. They often portrayed themselves as upholders of the right to life and played a just role in mediating conflicts. So, to preserve the public image of the Spiral Inspection Bureau, the female superior chose to conceal Tuan's transgressions. But Tuan could no longer stay here. She had to return to her home country immediately. She had just stepped off the plane. Her old friend was there to greet her. It had been over a decade since they last met. Kian had been tamed by this harmonious society. She had completely transformed into a docile appearance. However, their reunion was far from joyful, as Kian, at the dining table in front of Tuan, used a dining knife to end her own life. Yet what was even more shocking was, on the same day, at the same time, 6,582 people worldwide chose to commit suicide simultaneously. This unprecedented and synchronized wave of suicides immediately caught the attention of the Spiral Inspection Bureau. They believed it was a terrifying act of retaliation against Life Origin. Tuan, as a senior inspector, also participated in the investigation of this event. She repeatedly reviewed the video footage before Kian's suicide. Kian, just before taking her own life, kept saying, "I'm sorry, Mayak," repeatedly. This reminded Tuan of Mayak, the girl who had died 13 years ago. Back then, the three of them were the best of friends. At that time, Life Origin had just been established. Not long ago, each person had a health monitoring system called Watch Me implanted in their bodies from childhood. This monitoring system would activate automatically when humans reached adulthood, constantly overseeing their health and morality. At that time, Tuan, Kian, and Mayak were still in middle school. They were deeply disgusted by this new, hypocritical society. People didn't even have the freedom to control their own bodies, and Mayak's way of rebelling against Life Origin was to commit suicide. Kian and Tuan were infected by Mayaka's spirit. Under Mayaka's leadership, they agreed to ingest poison together as an act of rebellion. But in the end, Tuan was rescued, while Kian, faltering at the last moment due to cowardice, backed out. Only Mayak became the sole casualty of that suicide pact. Mayak, the spiritual leader among them, was exceptionally beautiful, intelligent, and independent. She was engrossed in ancient books from the world before despising the lack of privacy and personal will in this new world. However, the poison she concocted for their group ended up taking only her life. Lying on the hospital bed, Tuan witnessed her mother crying inconsolably for a person she had no connection to, Mayak. It was then that Tuan found the world incredibly absurd and ludicrous. Her mother had never even met Mayak, yet she wept bitterly, all because of that nauseating social scoring system. From that moment, Tuan began to pretend to conform to everything around her, until she grew up to become a senior inspector, while Kian lived the life of a standard new society. Human, becoming the optimistic, obedient girl of the new world. But 13 years later, Kian died. Before her death, she mentioned Mayaka's name once again. Tuan decided to visit Mayaka's home to find out more, but here Tuan learned unexpected news. It turns out, Mayak was just a war orphan adopted by a couple. They only knew Mayak belonged to a minority ethnic group. Everything else was a mystery. After Mayaka's death, the recipient of her body donation was none other than Professor Siki, the creator of the Watch Me system. Siki was also Kiri Tuan's father's teacher. So Tuan quickly visited Professor Siki, who told her, although he developed the Watch Me biological system, allowing humans to escape obesity, cancer, and aging, people started suppressing their true nature in pursuit of social status and score rankings, resulting in a society growing increasingly extreme and hypocritical. All of this was beyond his control. Tuan's father, Kiri's research abilities surpassed those of Siki by far. Therefore, it seemed that Kiri had ventured to Iraq years ago with a certain mysterious research project. Tuan decided to find her father to uncover the truth, but before she could set off, she was stopped by a man claiming to be an Interpol officer. He too was investigating the mass suicide incident and had more information in his possession. He proposed cooperation to Tuan. Tuan wanted to access the man's identity information, but she couldn't see anything. Clearly, the man's social status was higher than hers, so she lacked the authority to view it. So Tuan led him into the car. Through her conversation with the man, Tuan learned that the mass suicide incident was highly likely, planned by a mysterious organization called the Next Generation. This organization discovered a flaw in Watch Me and sought to sow chaos in human society. Soon this mysterious organization made a new move. They took control of a television station and began a worldwide broadcast. The organization admitted to orchestrating the mass suicide incident, revealing that in this so-called harmonious society, people were suppressing their true fears and anger. Humanity had completely lost freedom and control over their fate. The mysterious organization announced that they had implanted mechanisms in the Watch Me system within every human body, enabling remote control over each person's life and death. Moreover, in the following week, everyone had to kill at least one person. Failure to comply would result in the organization remotely forcing the non-killer to commit suicide. To prove the truth of their words, they manipulated the TV host to kill himself on the spot. The declaration of the mysterious organization immediately reminded Tuan of Mayak, who had passed away 13 years ago, because Mayak had uttered similar words back then. The more Tuan thought about it, the more bizarre it seemed. So she revisited the details of Kian's death once more. She stumbled upon a highly classified video call. In the video, Tuan was seated across from Kian during a meal, and, to her surprise, Mayaka's image appeared in Kian's AR pupils. Following that, Mayaka's words drove Kian to suicide directly. It was at this moment that Tuan finally realized Mayak might not have died after all. After the mysterious organization's broadcast, the world didn't immediately plunge into chaos, but the suicide rate kept climbing, as a significant portion of people couldn't convince themselves to kill others and ultimately chose suicide. Life Origin swiftly suppressed this information, yet it wasn't a lasting solution. Before long, the world would inevitably descend into utter turmoil. Meanwhile, Tuan decided to head to Iraq in search of her father in the future world's Iraq. Once war-torn Baghdad had transformed into a world-class luxury metropolis. Tuan's arrival here served two purposes. First, to find her missing scientist father Kiri, of 13 years. Second, to uncover the truth about the life and death of her two best friends. At that moment, a mysterious suicide note was circulating among the public. In this testament, the author confessed an inability to kill and the unbearable guilt that followed, even after committing murder. Since every life belonged to Life Origin as a common asset, the author suggested that instead of taking another's life, one should take their own. Tuan immediately suspected these words were maliciously incited by the mysterious organization. Yet public opinion worldwide surged like a tsunami, and Life Origin could no longer contain it. Tuan urgently needed to find her father. So she visited her father's former workplace, the International Association for Brain Science Research, only to discover that Kiri had long departed. Tuan went back to the hotel to look for other clues, but as she opened the door, she found a small card. The material of this card belonged to the era before Life Origin ruled the world, now discarded by society. On the card was a message instructing Tuan to remove the mini AR surveillance device from her eye pupils and providing an address beyond Life Origin's jurisdiction. Following the address on the card, Tuan indeed found her father, Kiri. She intended to immediately inquire about the mysterious organization and the whereabouts of Mayak, but when she saw her father's whitened hair and half-ruined face, she fell silent. The man who was so obsessed with research that he abandoned his wife and children hasn't become the hero she thought he was as a child. Kiri confessed he was indeed a member of that mysterious organization, and so was Mayak. Ever since the Watch Me system was deployed years ago, the number of young individuals attempting self-harm had doubled. Their organization provided treatment for these self-harming children, but it was also an experiment. Years ago, Kiri and other scientists developed a program system called the Harmony Project. Once implanted in the human brain, this system harmonized extreme human emotions, enabling individuals to control negative feelings, to overcome violent and suicidal tendencies. To test the viability of this system, Kiri led his team in treating a group of children who had attempted suicide but survived, including Mayak. However, Kiri soon realized Mayak's consciousness was more despairing and antisocial, her intelligence and determination to die surpassing all others, hence Kiri and his team believed. If they could control Mayaka's intense consciousness, the experiment would be considered successful. Yet with the success of the experiment came severe side effects, as they relentlessly pursued harmonizing negative emotions in the human brain. While negative and self-harming emotions did fade, consciousness also began to fade away. Humans could still shop, eat, and entertain themselves. They could continue living, but devoid of consciousness. They were akin to lifeless shells. Even more terrifyingly, the Harmony Project system has infiltrated through vulnerabilities in the Watch Me system and embedded itself inside people worldwide. Mayak lost her consciousness during the experiment that year, but with astonishing willpower, she regained her consciousness. Since then, a faction within the mysterious organization began following her, and she gradually rose to become one of the organization's top leaders. Now Mayak aims to activate the Harmony Project system to overthrow the society ruled by Life Origin. Subsequently, she, along with her followers, planned events where everyone had to commit murder. However, activating the Harmony Project system requires the password in Kiri's possession, and Kiri believes that once the system is activated, everyone in the world will lose consciousness and become lifeless shells. Thus, he staunchly opposes it. But because of this, Mayak has been chasing him. At this moment, Kiri tries to send Tuan away from here, but they suddenly come under gunfire. The attacker is the man who came with Tuan, who was sent by Mayak. Tuan and Kiri escape to the rooftop. At this point, they have no way out. Tuan is left with no choice but to pull out her gun and fight to the end after the gunshots. Kiri falls from a gunshot in front of Tuan, and the man opposite also falls from a gunshot wound. Father and daughter, reunited after 13 years, now face separation by life and death. Kiri caresses his daughter's face. In the final moment, he finally does something a father would do. The Interpol agent, before dying, informs Tuan that Mayak is waiting for her in his hometown. So Tuan embarked on the journey to Mayak. Along the way, Tuan recalled her father's words about Mayak's background. Mayak was born into an ethnic minority where the tradition of inbreeding persisted, leading to genetic defects in the offspring. They were born without human consciousness, only capable of numbly engaging in simple activities like shopping, eating, and entertainment. Mayak's consciousness was developed later in life. When she was 8 years old, she was abducted by the military, sold to a concentration camp amidst the brutal abuse by soldiers. Mayak's consciousness gradually formed in the midst of agony. After a long journey, Tuan quickly arrived at her destination. In a gloomy and damp room, she saw Mayak still resembling a young girl. Mayak expressed deep regret for the death of Tuan's father. Tuan, holding a gun, slowly approached her. Mayak began to confide in her, sharing her past when she was 8 years old. Amidst the daily torment by soldiers, she developed human consciousness. Subsequently, she witnessed the horrors of humanity in a world of conflict. Later, she was adopted by a new family in Japan. Her adoptive parents treated her well. Thus, she transitioned from a violent hell to a gentle home. This contrast made her, newly endowed with human consciousness, feel immense pain. Mayak muttered to herself, questioning why, if having human consciousness brought suffering, not just discard it altogether. Tuan earnestly told her, in this world, many people find happiness in their current lives, just like the deceased Kian, who lived gently and optimistically. But Mayak immediately refuted this, believing that nobody truly feels happy, even someone like Tuan. Suppressing her own emotions, Tuan did not argue with her. She simply approached slowly and embraced her. She remembered their high school days when the three of them lay on the grass, Mayak proudly presenting her hand-drawn business card, introducing it joyfully as their unique team emblem. Because in the previous era, people used business cards to distinguish their unique identities. For Mayak, who once pursued an independent soul, would she truly want to abandon her genuine consciousness? Perhaps humanity will eventually face the extinction of consciousness, or move towards a world of hypocritical harmony. But Tuan alone did not want Mayak to go there. She did not want Mayak to become a lifeless shell. In the end, she aimed the gun at Mayak. At that moment, the world's chaos had spiraled out of control. The top echelons of life origin finally activated the Harmony Project. In an instant, everything returned to calmness. A world of absolute harmony was born. A world of complete silence approached.